So I'll give you a little bit of background to how we came about doing it. Yeah, we had an idea. We just had an idea in our head. That's all it was. It was just a simple idea. I had done many presentations in schools and groups, but every time I walked out of that school or out of that group, it was emotional sometimes because you felt really enriched. You kind of thought, I've done a really good school presentation, but you kind of walked out the door going, I wonder if we've actually done anything. I wonder if we've made a difference. And particularly probably when I went to a lot of the fantastic workshops we've got around the country in terms of volunteer-led branches, you would leave and there would be parents in tears just talking about how difficult they were finding it. And I was thinking, I'm just not doing enough. I'm just not helping. I'm making to make a wee bit of inspiration, but not. And then I did a presentation at Hampden a number of years ago, and Rossi wandered up to me in his usual inimitable style and rambled on about Deco Comics and how we could maybe make a difference. Here's what we can do, pal. And if I do this, you do that. And the two of us were gabbling away. We had never met each other, but we were best pals within about 15 minutes. And we just thought,
I have to say, I don't know if everyone here has seen Paul speak before, but when he's on a stage, he's absolutely spellbinding. And when I saw him talk for the first time, I just had to go up to him and shake his hand and tell him who I was and hoped that we could one day work together. And thanks to Kathy McGee and the Dyslexia Scotland team, it has come true. And we've become the Chuckle Brothers ever since.
So were we helping enough? And what we wanted to do was could we raise awareness to that whole school community? That was the idea. That was the jigsaw. The jigsaw idea now was, could we support that school community group? And let's just try it. Let's just see where we can get to. And this is what we decided to try and do. This was the idea. But a lot of times I thought I wish I'd kept my mouth shut, is because, as Kathy quite rightly said, I ended up driving up and down the country, putting stuff into my sat nav and going, really? That's an hour and a half away from my house? Oh no, made a mistake here. At 6 o'clock in the evening, I'm thinking, am I going to a parents' night? What? So it just became, it took over my life, but it took over my life in a good way. And I'll explain that in a minute. There's a wee bit we want you to do. I'm sure everybody's got a bit of paper. And what I've learned is everybody does Zoom doodles. Every time I come into my office in here, I always pick up my wife's stuff and she's always written on it. She's always scribbling on things when she's sitting about. So I know everybody does Zoom doodling because I know that goes on. So what I'm going to ask you to do over the next wee while is see if you've got a bit of pen and a paper in front of you. As we talk, just doodle away about a comic book character, a hero, something. It doesn't matter. That's what I keep saying. What would you do to raise awareness about dyslexia? What have you learned over the last couple of hours? What have you learned in your life? And just doodle it on a bit of paper. Doesn't need to be exact. Doesn't need to be a good drawing. Nothing. And then if we're all right, we'll hold them up at the end and see what we've got, because we might have some really good drawings. So if you're doodling away there, might as well make it worth your while. So that's it. And give it a wee superhero name or that. So Rossi might doodle one and not embarrass us all, because he always does that when he's doing.
So it's doodling what dyslexia means to us. Is that right?
Yes, that's it. Anything you want to do, can it be a superhero or what it means or anything? So Rossi will wander away there and do some great stuff. So at the end, when we finish this presentation, we'll see. So let's talk about the plan and what did we want to do? Well, we decided this was kind of the list that Rossi and I came up with, or this was where we were going to go. So once we sat down with Kathy, we eventually got an opportunity, and Kathy said, look, we've got an opportunity here via some Scottish Government support to do a community thing. What do you think you can do? And we sat down. There was a bit of chat. Kathy kept dragging Rossi and I back into the kind of room again and going, no, you can't do all that, but bring it in a bit smaller. So we decided that the Dyslexia toolkit for teachers was a fantastic resource. So we thought, right, we've got one in the bag already. Let's work on something else. So we decided that we would try and put the two bits of the jigsaw together. We've got the teachers bit here, which is a fantastic resource, and if we can help them, that's great. Then can we help children? Can we help children? Can we go into a school and help children? That was the other part of it. And then we thought, well, the other bit we need to do is help parents, because sometimes you do something in a school, but you don't help the parents. So you need to try and bring these two cohorts together. And that was the learnings we had. And off we went with this idea. So, of course, Rossi and I got together, as Rossi kind of described us, as the Chuckle Brothers. maybe the worst two people in the world to put in the same room and give them coffee.
Or to arrive on time when you blame me for that.
Yeah. Rossi's first meeting with me to do this, he was an hour late. Well, he never actually turned up. I phoned him 45 minutes in, sitting in a coffee shop myself, and went, Rossi, you coming? He went, where? I says, you're meant to be meeting me. Oh, was that today? So
there are some things I wish I could blame dyslexia on, but I think that's just bad punctuality.
So Rossi and I sat down eventually when he made it to the second meeting, and decided, what are we going to try and do here? So these were the kind of things that we wrote down on a bit of paper. This was all we done. We wrote down on a bit of paper. Could we create an interactive workshop that would engage children? We just thought, can we engage them? Can we get them engaged, enthused, and doing something like that? Can we use the power of creativity to break down barriers? Because we just thought, when Rossi and I were talking, our hands were always going, as you can probably tell, we were always rambling on. But as we did that, we started to realise that we were breaking down our own individual barriers. And if we could get children to think like that, we might manage to do something the same. Could we show the strength of dyslexia? Potentially, if Rossi and I were going to try and front it up and say, look, we're dyslexic, that might then people go, what, yous are? And I don't get this. And so we thought, can we do that? What we also wanted to do was to allow children maybe to work in groups, maybe to get a bit of discussion going, because maybe it would be a group of children who were dyslexic, or just a classroom that maybe some young people were dyslexic or autistic or something within that class. And maybe if people started to chat about the difficulties or what dyslexia was, then we would actually start to overcome some of the challenge. So again, about this communication, about just breaking down barriers. We wanted children to have a platform to succeed. So what you're doing is what we've asked the children to do. Doodle, have a wee laugh. Look, I've drawn a straight line. Oh, look, I've colored this in. Oh, it's good. And they present at the end. And that's what we wanted to do. We wanted that sense of achievement that you can do.
May I say that even the shyest kids, or the kids lacking the most confidence, ended up taking part and being really excited to show their work and talk about their work.
So it was quite incredible. So Rossi and I then decided we would create a few superheroes. We decided, and this is where Rossi took over with respect to, as you can tell, with the drawings. They're phenomenal. And with just that bit of create. So we decided, let's create a world. So sitting in Costa Coffee one day, Rossi and I created this mad world that was just floating about in our head, and we put it in a bit of paper. Here are people that have helped us throughout the years that we just want to put into a bit of a drawing and make them, because they do exist. They're just sometimes manifestations in your own super world that if we can bring them to life, children will go, I can relate to that. So we decided that's what we would do. So we created these superheroes, and we're doing that. This is Persisto, but for about a year, I was calling him Persistence, or what was I calling him? I can't even remember, but I wasn't calling him by his right name. And then Rossi, in the middle of a workshop one day, said, Paul, that's not his name. He's called
Pisterio, I believe, was your interpretation.
My dyslexia totally kicked in, and I called him Pisterio. And Rossi, in the middle of a workshop one day, said, Paul, that guy's name's know that. I went, well, that's me truly dyslexic. I can't even read what I'm meant to be doing off a board. So absolutely fine, off we went. So we created this hero, and what we wanted to do was show the strengths of dyslexia. So we could then have a bit of interaction by showing that there's this big, powerful person, really determined to succeed, but needs help. And if they can relate to that, and when we took it into the workshop, we could then show, here's somebody, how do you lift a table was our example. So kids are going, well, I need help. Well, of course you do, because you can't do it yourself. Ah, right, wait a minute, big powerful superhero, but needs help. Get it. Start to move on, so we could get debate going. Of course, we always need, well, Rossi always told me we need a comic book dog. He said you can't have a comic book unless you've got a comic book dog. So, of course, we had to put in. But again, we just wanted to bring this to life about just there was some other things there. And talking about that caring nature that you can have, and how if you don't believe in yourself, you can do. And you'll probably find that one kind of down the bottom quite relates to Rossi in terms of that organisational stuff, isn't it? Rossi, we're meeting at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock. Diary. But what
absolutely. I think the thought that you really wanted for this when we were talking about this over Costa was that you wanted a hero to represent each dyslexia strength, or to work together like the Avengers, so that with each of them individually don't have enough power to, fight for themselves, but when they work together, they become unstoppable. So just as Persisto, he represented like, strength and persistence, and um, having the real willpower to just go for anything. Willforce here would represent the encouragement. Sometimes, being strong isn't enough. You need to be encouraged and believe that you can do it, even though it feels like you can't. That can particularly relate to someone in class who's got dyslexia and is feeling like they're a hopeless case.
So couldn't put it better myself, my friend. And this is what we do. So we created these three ones. We then we created creator. So again, another comic book character who we could then start to say, well, this person can see things that sometimes others don't, and how do you go down it? And that problem solving. And I have to admit, Rossi and I used the analogy of counting to 10. So we used to get a young person up, because this workshop became a bit bonkers. It just used to become as much energy as we could put in it is what we wanted to get over. That's what we wanted to do. So we get a young person up, count to 10. Chronologically, they do it absolutely fantastic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, brilliant. And then we would then say, well, what if we did 2, 4, 7, 9, 1, 3, 5, 4, 5, 10? And one day, Rossi and I were in, and it was so unbelievable. We did it one week, and it was a mixed group. So it was a group of it was a normal P5 class, sorry. And there was a few young people in that class. And there was a wee bit of 50-50. Yeah, you counted to 10. No, you didn't put all the numbers in the right order, and so on and so forth. The next week, we went to a school, and because we always say to the school, and we'll touch on that, we say it's up to you how we deliver this workshop. We don't care. You pick. You can either put all the kids who are dyslexic from P1 to P7 in, or you can do whatever you want to do. So next week we turned up, and it was a class of about 20 from a school who were all dyslexic in a variety of different ways, all in it. We done the same thing. Every one of them put their hands up to say I'd done it right. It was a moment Rossi and I just paused and went, they get what we're trying to get. They knew that if you do things differently, you still get the same answer. And it was just a moment when Rossi went, wow. It was just 100% of their hands all went up and went, no, that's fine. You can do it a different way. You've used the numbers. You just haven't put them in order. And what? And I went, wow. And it was a surreal moment of what we've seen walking through this, of how people learn, but how people adapt to learning as well. And it was just really, really good to see. So again, we had them, and as you can probably see, they're quite fun characters. We could use them. We could have a bit of banter round about with the young people doing that. We could bounce about the room, and they really enjoyed doing that. And I think that was a good thing. And of course, we had to create Mr. Despicabilia, which takes
well done.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. It took me 12 workshops to get there. I could not get anywhere near this. But what we wanted to show was dyslexia in a real form. We wanted to try, because it's so difficult. You are dyslexic. What does that mean? No idea. Can you show me? Can show you a couple of slides. What does it really mean for a 5-year-old? What does it really mean for a 10-year-old? But you get it if you see this character, I think. It's a little bit sinister. It's a little bit like, oh, I'll steal your time. Oh, look over there. And we use this character to bring dyslexia to life. And it was so much fun just listening to kids putting their hands up when we said, see if the teacher gives you a question, she says, do this, 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 and this. Is there sometimes you go, what did you say? Or is there sometimes you're just staring out the window for no reason? Or is there sometimes the teacher says, on you go, you've got 15 minutes to do it, and you go, when did the 14 minutes pass? So all of a sudden we had a tangible thing that we could say, that's dyslexia. And they could look at it and go, I get that. I get that. And it really then just allowed us to say, there's somebody you can go and defeat. And that was the whole purpose of this. There was something that you could overcome the challenge. And I think, as Rossi always used to say in the workshops, you won't get rid of them, but there is ways and means in which you can defeat. And that was the whole purpose.
Absolutely. It was that you would never get rid of Mr. Despicabilia. He's always going to be there. He's part of the whole thing, but you can learn to, not just learn to live with him, you can learn to overcome him and conquer him. Like it's learning to embrace all these different parts of you, your strength and persistence, your willpower to encourage yourself and others, your creativity, learning to embrace all those and use them together. And that would always be a great way to fight past the negativity or the negative sides that dyslexia could bring. And we just wanted him to represent that, to represent, as you say, Paul, that feeling when you feel like time is just being stolen from you. Hence why we designed him like holding a watch and a swag sack, as if he steals time from you or he steals concentration. When you feel like you're really trying to pay attention and you just can't, we wanted him to represent all that feeling so that we could always angle, when we're thinking up of our own heroes and our own heroes that represent dyslexia, we could, as Paul says, show the very thing that we're trying to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope you're still Zoom doodling away there. Keep going, please. Just keep going, because that's what we want. We want you now to see what we're trying to do. So hopefully you're just doodling away there and going, oh, I know what I could do. Here's a superhero. Here's something I could do. So keep going. Give it a nice name. This is what the whole idea was. We want you to feel like a 10-year-old, because hopefully you can see Rossi and I's IQ haven't went above that yet. But that's what we want you to feel like just now. How would you feel as we talk you through? So we'll talk about the workshop. So we came up, we got this all done, we got ready. Believe it or not, as Kathy gave you the dates in there, this was the moment where we realised there was a couple of things that could go on. Was we created and I'm not going to go through the workshop, I'm just going to show you the bullet points of it really here. But to give you a bit of context, so we were never going to be defeated, we got to the point where we were nearly ready to roll this out. We had the final bit of the workshop to do. We had the dates all in place. We had a date just to sit down with Kathy and a few others to kind of go through the workshops. And the beast from the east hit. And it was just snow everywhere and we couldn't move. And we went like that. And Zoom wasn't really invented. I know I keep talking about, like, when I do workshops, I say Google wasn't invented when I was at school. Zoom, we didn't know what that was a few years ago. So here I am in my son's bedroom on a mobile phone, just trying to talk Kathy through the workshop. And I'm going, Kathy, where are you? And she says, oh, I just skied into the office today and stuff. So Rosie and I go, well, you did what? What are we talking about? So again, we just got this workshop ready. So
I have heard that Kathy has sailed into the office before as well, but that's another story.
So the idea around this workshop was could we raise awareness? This was the whole idea. So we bounced in and to give you a little bit of context, the very first workshop we did, because there was so much planning behind this, there was getting me and Rossi's times organised with the schools. It was because it wasn't Andy's full-time job. It was just asking for favour after favour after favour. So Rossi and I went to do the very first ever workshop. We turns up at the school. I chaps the door of the school. We walk in and I say, I'm here to deliver the Dyslexia Scotland workshop. And they went, the what? And I went, I'm here to deliver the Dyslexia. Oh, I'm not too sure. We know about you. And I went, well, my name's on that bit of paper in front of you. And she went, oh, right. Okay, we don't actually have anything. We've not got the class ready for you. And I went, oh, no. And Rossi appeared at my back. And I went, Rossi, I don't think they have a clue why we're here. So at that point in time, Rossi and I panicked. We thought, this is never going to work. We went up to the classroom that day. The nicest teacher in the world from a P5 class just went, in you come. What are you doing? And we told her. She said, no problem. Plug your PowerPoint in there. Put the board down. There's some pens. Let's just crack on and go for it. She says, I've got about 4 kids in here who are dyslexic. It'll be brilliant. Let's go. And I have to admit, that one moment was the whole of this workshop just bloomed. It was just that one moment where this small acorn started to grow, because that teacher just bought into the idea. Her class were brilliant. They engaged. And we put this slide up and all of a sudden we just had fun. We were just running about the class, talking about famous dyslexics, having a bit of a joke, kids asking, surely Jamie Oliver can't be dyslexic. He's really good at stuff. He can't. And it was brilliant. And then we just went on. And what I would give is that one teacher decided that day that she would go around the class and she was getting me fill post-it notes in, which I think is quite ironic to the title that Kathy came up with, about feedback. And she just sat them down going, well, how do you feel? And kids were going, I didn't know that people were dyslexic. I just thought it was spelling. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's really good. And she says, you have just lit something in this class today that is quite phenomenal. And it was brilliant. And we get brilliant drawings. And as Rossi quite rightly says, at the end of it, every kid, the bell went And we were getting kids going, it's all right, can we just stay? I want to go and show mine, I want to go and present mine, we don't need to go for a break. It was just a moment of just sheer energy, and we just thought, this will work, this will work. And off we went. So this was the idea of it just showing this. This was the bit that we did at the start. We would then go on and we took this from the feedback that we got from the young ambassadors, and we would just put these things up and we would just ask, does this MD harm? Yeah, it happens to me. Kids just shouting out, just going, yeah, the words all move about in the book for me. And when nobody seemed to be embarrassed about putting their hand up, nobody, as Rossi says, the most shy child would start going, yeah, that happens to me, by the way. Words all move about. Oh, I can never process all that information. And we would get teachers eventually when we were going up going, I never thought about that. I've made a mistake here. How do I make my learning better in this environment? Because all the kids just wanted to tell you about the challenges they got. For some bizarre reason, when you started to put all these things together, and we spoke about these comic book characters, the barriers came down, the inhibitions went. Kids were very happy to speak about their difficulties, what they found hard, how embarrassed they were, and it was great. And then our opportunity was, how do you build them up? So as user doodling there, and continue doing it, please, this is what we asked them to do. This was the big bit of it. So Rossi, in his inimitable style, would get up and he would just ask them, these 5 things that you find difficult. Reading out loud, doing this, doing that. And Rossi would then start doing a drawing. And we had so much fun about breaking down the barriers that were there. So you get kids who go, I don't like speaking out loud. What if we give you a megaphone as a mouth that you just need to whisper and it'll boom out? That'd be brilliant. What if we gave you this? What if we did an antenna and it went right up to a big rocket ship and it brought, oh, that would be good. What if we did an earpiece in your ear that recorded everything for the teacher? Now, they all sound mad, but some of them are possible. Some of them are possible. And the one moment that Rossi and I both nearly started crying one day in a classroom was a young girl put her hand up and went, I do have a magic watch. And we all looked at her and we all thought, and I went, how am I going to answer this one? Nobody's got a magic watch. How are we going to answer this one? But what she told us was she's put her stopwatch on and she would stop it and wouldn't bother with the clock so she could calm herself down. So she knew she could breathe. Because if she stopped her stopwatch as she was doing an exam, time would stop. She didn't bother with the school clock. She just knew that it was fine. And the teacher went, do you do that for every exam? She went, yeah, I've done it since P4. And we went, well, you have got a magic watch. It was just this child's coping strategy to learn that if she pressed that, time could stop. It didn't really stop, but it just made her think, I can breathe, I can do it. And we pulled them in. We had unbelievable ideas about laser eyes, everything, but it was just children thinking of coping strategies. That's all they came up with, their own individual coping strategies. Can you get a saw that can cut words in half? Balloons that speak to you? These things all became reality to them. And it was unbelievable to watch. And this was probably the most enjoyable part of what we did. We just seen young kids, and as Rossi quite alludes to, coming up, kids who would never present in the class, all of a sudden were up top of chairs going, this is such and such a superhero, and he jumps about and he gathers words, and you were going, what? To get to the very last workshop we had a boy who was nowhere near going to come into the class. His teacher dragged him across to say, can he come and have a conversation with you? He stayed for the whole workshop and presented. And the teacher went, I don't know how you've managed to keep him in here for an hour. We don't keep him in a class for an hour. Taking inhibitions away, giving him something else, giving him positivity, making him leave with just that bit of sense of belief. And I go back to, we had a dream in our head. We now had a dream of reality in front of us. So we also wanted to do, and I'll just touch briefly on this bit, because this was probably the bit that we just bolted on because we thought it was important, but this became very important. We had a parents' workshop, and we went round the country, and what we would do the parents' workshop. It was difficult to try to get everything chronologically in order, but we would try and do the teachers' workshop first, parents' workshop, and then a kids' workshop. So parents would then say, right, I know why you're coming into school, so on and so forth, and they would ask us questions and we could talk to them and everything. But the idea behind this was to say you're not alone. This was the whole idea about this workshop. We put this slide up all the time to just say, look, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging. You're going to cry. As a parent, you are going to cry because you want to help your child. You want to make their life better, but you're going to have to smile and you're going to have to make them positive about it. And you're going to get through this journey because we're all going to get through it together. And then we would talk about this kind of coping strategy. This is the one that we would use, but again, we would just go into this just to talk about it, just to talk about how you could create the right environment. Everything that Dyslexia Scotland does so well. How could we ask for help? How could we tell people it's okay to fall down? It's all right to make a mistake. It's how you learn from the mistake. How can we keep children talking? So what we say to the parents was, make that environment correct. We will do our best in the children's workshop. So they might come home and say, I find that difficult, by the way. That spelling, that processing, that. And then can you find the help because we've gave you the resources to go and find. So that was great. And the opportunities to succeed. We spoke all the time about double jeopardy. We spoke about it every workshop where Rossi would say, if I don't have drawing in my creative arts, I might have fell down. If I didn't have sport, don't take it away from them. Give children any opportunity to succeed. And if they're good at something, double that up. Because if you make them happy, they'll come back and they will do the English and maths. But if you keep ripping that away from them, they ain't doing the other bit. So make the environment right. And you've seen light bulbs on parents' eyes go off as they come up and go.
Absolutely. And I just want to add in there, you know, you might have already touched on that already, but just making them feel that there's no right or wrong answer, you know, feeling that there's no area where they're going to get something horribly wrong or that they're going to get, punished for doing it wrongly. There was always that fear for some kids when they started the exercise, but as soon as they realized that me and Paul were just sort of wanting to have fun with them and let them explore their imagination and do whatever they wanted to express this idea, that they could, you know, we gave them the focus, but we gave them the complete freedom to pursue it however they wanted. And I think that was really important. I think that really opened a lot of kids up.
Agreed, mate, agreed. And we would just leave them with these kind of remarks that you always have to ask for help, that hard work's there, aim high, do everything. And we'll give you one example of this parents' workshop coming, just booming to life one day. Ross and I went to Glasgow primary school in a really tough area of Glasgow one evening. Summer's evening, away up we went. The teachers were brilliant. Ross and I appeared and she said, I've put pizza and everything on, but there's only about 3 people here at the moment in time. 5 minutes before it started, about 80 parents appeared of all varieties, from a wide spectrum of the classes, from everything. The room, the assembly hall was mobbed. Rossi and I just got up and, as normal, just bounced about like Tigger, with eating about 300 Smarties, going, here's what it is, right? And there was just noise after it. It was parents standing behind going, so what can I do? How can I make this is really from a real area of deprivation. The head teacher came up to us at the very end and went, Rossi, and can I just thank you? This is a breakthrough. We've made a breakthrough tonight. We can't engage with those parents. For some reason, tonight has just helped us. And we now know we can go forward with those parents. They've opened up, they've talked to us, we've got some things in here. And I've bumped into the deputy head a couple of times later and said, you turned some of the kids round about that night. Thank you. And this is what we knew we could do if we were just given the correct platforms to allow it to go on. So I think that's what the last bullet point is down the bottom, that more voices. All of a sudden we could shout and go, dyslexia isn't something that's negative. We can make a difference by just listening and helping each other. So let's shout as loud as we can. And they went, right, okay, who do I need to go and talk to? And when I'm talking about the ones in Glasgow, I was going, well, maybe you should go and speak to your local MSP. Right, I'm going to go and rattle his door tomorrow. And I'm positive some of them would go and rattle the door really loud. So it was about raising awareness again. So again, we would leave them all with this kind of help and support. And a lot of these slides went back and everybody went, oh, look, thank you. So to tie up, because I'm sure I'm probably well over time as normal, Kathy, is normal, apologies. But what happened was we get some tremendous feedback, absolutely buzzing feedback. The one thing was, and Kathy, that I don't think alluded to at the very start, when we were going to move into year 2 of the one, we thought, we'll move away from the local authorities we did. And it was like trying to steal chocolate from a baby at one point. The people went, no. Our schools say you need to come back and do more schools in our area. We're going, but we'll maybe go and do some other local. No. And it was like, okay, we'll just go back. So we went back to the same local authorities for the simple reason being that we'd only done 4 or 5 per local authority, and the schools were going mad and going, why didn't we get it? Why didn't we get that workshop? So you've got to come back. So those type of numbers, they might sound small in terms of the global thing, but that was a lot of hard work to get that day. You're talking classes of 20 when we were going in and speaking to them. The parents one were incredible. This was after school. This was not mandatory. This was parents coming up their own time to come and have a conversation, and the feedback was incredible. Some of the messages, some of the nights that we had were just, I'll be honest, there was many times I got back in my car and burst out crying because it was just the sheer wave of emotion that you felt from those parents. That one, that you'd helped them, you'd opened up this kind of doorway for them, you realise you can make a difference to their life, their child's life, their school's life. And you just went, this is brilliant. This is absolutely fantastic. And I think to bring it full circle was, there was an idea in a coffee shop many, many years ago, and down to the sheer hard work of Dyslexia Scotland and all the talented people in there, we managed to get this as a resource. And I can't believe that from a PowerPoint that was just a dream, that the guy's done incredible well. It was just, I mean, when I seen it, I just went, this is unbelievable what you've managed to produce. I don't know how when I pulled my PowerPoint and made it actually look actually quite presentable, because it's not. It's really rubbish when I was doing it. But it's a resource now. It's an actual living, breathing resource. And do you know something? Dyslexia Awareness Week, I think when this popped up, I nearly cried. Well, I did. Because all of a sudden I realised that Rossi and I, sitting in the Costa Coffee, talking about creating some form of resource that a school would eventually pick up and use to break down the barriers and raise awareness about Dyslexia Scotland and dyslexia in general, and learning in general was getting used. This is nothing to do with Rossi and I. This was a school doing themselves. And I cannot tell you how proud I was to say, wow, we have done it. We've created a resource, we've made an environment, and young people are now going to go and use it. So I have to admit, it's down to the hard work of Rossi, Kathy, everybody at Dyslexia Scotland. We managed to make a small daft idea become reality and probably roll out and help so many more young people over the next wee while. And I think we left every Parents' Night presentation with this one slide. We left it just saying, look, we're going to give you a wee bit of hope, because it is like love. It's a truly wonderful, ridiculous thing. And I think that's what we did. We simply, as Dyslexia Scotland, as a community that we represent, made a difference to some people's lives. So thank you for listening, as ever. And I'm sure if there's any questions, Rossi will answer them.